the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilization, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the landing party. I am your host, Graham Nolan, and we are ready to start our captain's log on this stardate 2506.19 as we begin our third season, the third and final season of the original Star Trek series, with episode 56, Spectre of the Gun. Written by Lee Cronin and directed by Vincent McEveety. Wow. Here we are diving into the third season, the much maligned third season, and we start off with a bang. And why shouldn't we? When you realize that writer Lee Cronin is actually the great Gene L. Coon. He was writing under a pseudonym because he had moved over to Universal and had an exclusive contract for movie scripts, as well as being producer and head writer for the TV show It Takes a Thief. Everyone from the Star Trek offices to the head of NBC was in on the deception, and all the story notes were referred to Cronin. Season 3 started off with many obvious changes to the previous two. The opening title credits are now blue rather than yellow. Shatner's voice has more reverb when he recites his famous Space, the Final Frontier. A new rendition of the theme song. The infamous shrinking velour shirts are replaced with a better-fitting polyester. Scotty and Uhura get new hairdos. And a new producer is now on board, Fred Freiberger, armed with a lower budget and told to bring more serious stories to the screen. For his first outing, Spectre the Gun delivers. Right from the first shot on board the Enterprise, the lighting is darker than anything in Season 2. And some of the chummier aspects of the bridge personnel have been tamped down. Kirk even refers to Spock as science officer twice in this episode. The design and lighting of the Melkotian alien is wonderful. In fact, it's one of my favorite alien designs in all of Star Trek. The idea that what we see is pulled from Kirk's fragmented memories so that all we see are false fronts and mirrors and pictures hanging in the air give this episode a surreal and abstract feel like no other. This concept actually makes the limited budget work for them rather than against them. The wind and leaves blowing and the stylistic choice of the director to have the Earps and Doc Holliday move like they were dead creatures adds another layer to a ghost story. McEveety and the extras playing the cowboys were old hands in the Western genre, having worked making the rounds on Gunsmoke, Rawhide, The Virginian, and other Westerns of the day. Rex Holman, who played Morgan Earp in this episode, will return many years later to Aaron's favorite Star Trek movie, Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, as the bald-headed John, which incidentally was directed by William Shatner. There's a scene in this episode that was filmed and eventually cut that I think would have been really cool to see. When Kirk discovers they are penned in by a force field, he sees a rider on the other side. He figures a horse can get through the barrier, so he hops on one and rides towards the force field. The horse passes through, but Kirk is knocked on his ass. I think that would have been really neat to see. DeForest Kelley made a living out of playing heavies in Westerns before Star Trek, and this is his third turn at the OK Corral. He appeared in the 1955 episode of Gunfight at the OK Corral as Ike Clanton on the CBS anthology series You Are There. 2 years later, he was Morgan Earp in the movie version starring Burt Lancaster and Kirk Douglas. And now, in this episode, he's Tom McLaury. So there you have your captain's log, my friends. We have a special guest tonight. We have our favorite red shirt, who I will bring in first. Mr. Mark Millar is here.
Good to see you guys.
Well, welcome. He's not wearing his red shirt. He's wearing his
Blue bathrobe.
blue bathrobe. So you will survive tonight's episode, Mark.
I've got to say it's almost midnight here, and I'm up in 5 hours. I'm up in 5 hours time, so I'll be hitting the sack as soon as this episode ends. So I'm ready for bed. You're getting a little preview of what my wife gets. This is like a beautiful preview of what my wife sees every night.
It's more than my fans have asked for. And here we go. Here's Bizarro.
All I know is Mark's getting me a little excited and hot under the collar.
That's perfectly normal. That's perfectly normal.
He does that. I mean, he works with cows all the time, so you can see how that could happen.
Mark Hefner. You just need a little pipe and then a bottle.
Crack pipe. Crack pipe.
Yeah, crack pipe. Yeah, he certainly did his share of cocaine in his life. By the end of it, he was chewing his own teeth most of the time.
Who's that?
Hugh Hefner.
I thought you meant me.
Right?
Well, I know. I don't know. Maybe you have. I don't know.
Let's bring the Tombstone Girl in herself.
There she
Hello.
is.
Hey, Anna.
Glad you made it.
Hey, what's up?
Well, we managed to get the show on the air tonight, which we
Yeah.
were unable to do last week because StreamYard was completely down around the world, I guess. So I'm glad everybody could make it. Aaron folks cannot be here tonight. He's on his way to a show. So he is en route to a convention.
I came in at 8 o'clock last Thursday because I misread the thing because I didn't have my glasses on. So I thought it said 8. So I came in here and all I saw was this cluster of craziness going on. I'm like, what is going on in here?
Oh yeah, we threw together a record stream. We threw together another live stream, and every time you hit live or record, it just did nothing.
By the way, what do you notice about my environment?
Is that C3PO?
No.
Oh,
I can't see it.
would it be Robbie the robot?
Oh, well, I do have Robbie the robot, yes, but I put
Slave one.
my robot head on because it looks like the Melkotian eyes.
Oh, I see it back there. Okay.
It's actually a Terminator head, but you can't see it in the dark there, so it just looks like a Melkotian floating.
I have a Terminator head right here. I don't know if you can make that out.
Right there.
Here, I'll go
It's
get
pretty
it.
small.
This is a good time for me to point out as well. There's always a kid in school who does the wrong homework. I've done the wrong homework. Because
Yeah.
I think in the UK, season 3 started with a different episode. And
Well,
luckily,
You'd be correct because we are doing this in the order they were filmed, not the order they were aired.
right.
Something you can
luckily I
go to
remember-
bed and feel good about. Or
Yeah, you know what the third season opened with on TV was Spock's brain.
Hulk's brain, because that was the one I watched it again last week. But hang on, Robbie the robot.
Oh, here, hold on. Let's put Ron in solo mode here, so we can see Robbie the robot.
you guys want to ask him to do anything for you?
Yeah, can he make me some bourbon?
Yeah, was he able to do stuff like that? Let me see if I can.
Yeah. He did it for Earl Holliman.
How does he keep doing that? Okay. Hold on. Robbie, make me a bourbon, will you please? Hold on. Let me get that.
There it goes.
There we go. Now he's making the bourbon.
Nice.
Come on, Robbie. Ah,
Beautiful.
Perfect. That's what I want for Christmas.
cheers from Altair 4.
Best robot ever. Oh, that's
You
fantastic.
didn't put a piece of melted chocolate in it.
Melted chocolate. Wow. Okay. That's different. So what did you guys think of this episode? I think you could tell from my captain's log that I love this episode. In fact, I think it's better than most second season episodes, and certainly one of the best of the third season for me.
Well, I kind of like, the way everybody complains about season 3? Like, I don't know about you guys, right? But when I was a kid, I was completely unaware that these guys had no money. It looked as spectacular to me as a kid as Star Trek always looked, And even though there'd be episodes where there was vast crowd scenes, you would only hear over the radio and stuff like that. When you're a kid, it's just all your imagination, isn't it? So I kind of love the fact that this is a cowboy episode of Star Trek. I'm like, to me, that feels more expensive, even though they were just using another set that somebody else had lying around, But sometimes a lack of money makes you use your imagination a little harder, I think. So we got some cool stuff here, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I love this episode because, well, one, I'm a big Western. No, I love Clint Eastwood. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is one of my favorite films of all time. But that said, I love this because of what it sort of represents in a way, because we before the space race, everything was Westerns, and then we went to the moon and all that a little bit after this, but we were still involved in the space race, and this was a cool transition because we tamed the West, and then now we're trying to tame space, and this was a nice, what would you call it? When they intertwine like that, a nice
like a cross genre.
Yeah, just a nice meeting in between of a transition from the taming the West to taming space, and that's why I loved about it, because I've always loved Westerns anyway.
Yeah, me
too. I also love this episode because of Spock gives one of the most brilliant displays of logic in the entire show. Like when he's talking about why Chekhov's not really dead.
And the other guys have had a hard time grasping it too.
And the laws of physics and everything else. Yeah. And he's like, wow, how did Chekhov die, Doctor? And McCoy's like, a piece of lead in his belly or something, he said.
Yeah.
And Spock's like, so confidently, no. And then he lays it all out so brilliant.
He's actually condescending.
Yeah. like he expected it from McCoy.
Uh-huh.
But I just thought it was a brilliant display of logic for that alone. I love the episode. I just thought it was one of the better, one of the moments in the entire series where he really rolls it out and makes sense. The same way.
Oh my God, there's a baby.
Yeah. My husband's in the office today, so she's supposed to be napping, and of course she knew that I had to be on a stream, so she woke up.
Oh, baby Peaches is a big Star Trek fan. We know that.
She actually is. Whenever I turn it on, she just stops and just stares at it.
Have you ever thought about having plastic surgery on her ears and making them pointed?
No, I think her ears are perfect just the way that they are.
Well, just something to consider.
There's some people out there who would do that to their kids.
Well, you know what's funny? So I wasn't expecting to have her when I went into the hospital, and we were going through my purse because I was like, oh, I might have a phone charger in there because both of our phones were about to die. And I didn't have a phone charger, but I had Vulcan ears in my purse.
Oh my God.
Why didn't you wear it? You should have put them on.
I think I was going to, but I was on so many drugs that it just didn't occur to me.
That's what would have made it even better.
I like the idea that you weren't expecting to have her. Like you're in there for a tonsillectomy and you come out with a baby. Amazing.
No, I went in for a version because she was the wrong direction. And it stressed her out and it stressed me out. So I had to have one of those emergency C-sections, which wasn't fun.
I wonder if it's the same for Vulcan women. Like do they give birth?
No, baby.
Hello, honey. Hello.
Yeah, but they don't cry, Ron.
Right.
They
live long and prosper. Live long and prosper.
How is the pain with the baby? It is manageable.
Yeah, it is manageable. Right.
Can I tell you something spooky about my wife when she was giving birth? First baby, 25-minute labor, doing a crossword while she was giving birth, and the second baby, 15-minute labor.
Oh, so she was.
You know how many millions of women hate her?
You know what I love doing? If anyone's pregnant, I always give them advice. I always say, look, here's what my wife did. I love to give pregnant women advice.
Oh my God.
Until they find out it was 15 minutes.
How small were the babies?
No, it's a thing called hypnobirthing. And her grandmother was doing this in the 1950s. And all her family do this. And it's just a way of totally calming yourself. And you give birth so easily. You know, you just sit
Wow.
back and relax. Like,
And I'll tell you, it's
Well, great for them.
the next. Man, you can see where exorcisms got popular, because that's what it's like. It's like being at an exorcism, you know. It's like seeing a demon brought into the world through a portal. And actually, when my son was born, I might have told you guys this story, but my son, I was in the delivery room. I'm up to my wife's here. I'm like, come on, honey, you know, and she's going through it. And doctors are like, come down here, Ron, come see your son being brought into the world. And I'm like, no, I'm good up here, you know. And so finally they're like, come on, come see. So finally I acquiesced and I said, okay. So I went around and I looked, and all of a sudden the whole room went, whoa.
Really? Yeah.
And I heard a nurse go, we're losing the father. We're losing the father.
Now,
so I grabbed the table.
Was she natural or C-section?
It was natural, but I grabbed the table and I said, no, I'm okay. Keep going. I managed not to pass out from seeing that crazy sight.
Dude,
Yeah,
my wife had a C-section like Anna, and I looked over, and I'm looking at her stomach, her spleen, everything.
Yeah.
Like they take it all out and put it up there. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Now, what is that right there? What
yeah, right. Right.
They offered for my husband to be down there to watch it. They're like, what end do you want to be at? And I was like, he gets to be by my head. He does not get to see all of
You don't
that.
want him to
Well,
see it.
I was by her head too, but I was standing up and I could look over the tent.
They had to
You ever
sit
see
down.
that Saturday Night Live skit where a woman's giving birth and Will Ferrell comes out?
No.
He's like, he's like, wow, oh my God. He's like dripping and stuff.
Oh, jeez.
It's pretty funny. He's like, well, thanks. And he walks out.
So they're feeding, my wife's grand's doctor he used to work in Africa, and he said in Africa people give birth so casually. He said they just like lean against the wall and have a baby and everything. It's just, this is back in the 50s.
Yeah, they stand
Isn't it wonderful for them?
I know,
Congratulations to all
but
of
they
them.
said fear, makes everybody kind of tighten up and everything, and that's what makes a labor last a long time. So he said if you can somehow calm yourself down, it'll just go easier. He said this happens with everybody in nature as well. So again, this is my advice as a man to anyone pregnant. If you ever need advice, just come to me.
Well, I saw a National Geographic one time in Africa. This woman was working the field. She's got a big belly, and then she squats down, has the baby, and then picks it up and starts working the field.
That's what my wife sounds like. It's
That's
crazy.
from the good earth.
Yeah, it's nice.
Well, it could be like you're
like, just lazy, Anna.
Oh yeah,
you just want to have a baby and not do the work,
These poor animals give birth, and then there's lions waiting there to just rip it from the zebra,
right?
And they eat them right away.
Hang on, what kind of TV shows are you watching, Ron?
I watch all that nature stuff.
National Geographic, don't they have that in Scotland?
Father Knows Best. What are you talking about?
That was the band episode. Mother Knows Best.
He was the one that traumatized me for
What are your thoughts on this episode, Anna?
I like it. It's funny, when we thought that she was going to be a boy, Wyatt was the name my husband wanted. And it turned out, she wasn't a boy. And then one of his coworkers that he hates had a baby boy named Wyatt, so he was happy. So we avoided that.
Stole a good name.
But I like it. I like cowboy stuff.
Yeah.
And I think, though, the guys that they got to play the Earps weren't, maybe because I saw Tombstone first. I was like, well, this is a disappointment. I would expect that would be the episode that they have a celebrity guest on,
Right. But the whole point of the thing, first off, the good guys are really, Kirk, Spock, those guys are the bad guys in the real world. The Clanton gang and McLowry. And so in this one, it's reversed, and the bad guys are the Earps, who are the lawmakers, or law enforcers. So that and so the way I loved the choice of having them, when they walked and stuff, they're walking like automatons, and they had like dead eyes, like the one guy who shoots Chekhov, You know, he has very little motion in how he moves, how he turns and stuff. That added a creepiness to this, I thought.
And really actually cool. Very believable. I mean, he had a very sullen look on his face, like just, you know,
yeah,
you could imagine everybody had back then, because the survival rate, you know, back in the Wild West was, you know, they didn't live to 50 years old.
Right.
You know,
one of my favorite scenes is when Kirk is trying to negotiate with Sheriff Behan. And he tells him, you know, it's what you've wanted. And he said, no, yes, I want to crush the life out of the herbs. And he says, you know, wait for him and then ambush him and kill him. He says, don't you understand? I just can't kill him. I just can't kill him. And he goes, kill him any way you can, you know,
kill him any way you can.
And then Kirk like realizes, he has this like epiphany right here. It's like, oh my God, this guy is a scumbag.
Yeah, but look at how he gets sucked in, and he's actually living, like it's almost like it overtook his whole persona.
Yes, but then he realizes he's arguing to kill somebody that's not really even alive.
That doesn't even exist.
It doesn't even exist. It's just out of his mind.
And I know, and it's like all the.
I love that.
I liked how all the structures looked like a TV set, where, you know, they were just hollow representations. You know, you go through a door and there's nothing in there.
Right. And in photo, you know, pictures, paintings are hanging like on a wire. Mirrors are just hanging, you know, off and up.
Like it was beautifully done for the, you know, you could say, well, that was the budget, but if that were the case, they made that's how you do it. You know, that's how you do it with a limited budget. You make it part of the story. You know what I mean? That's what was so brilliant about it.
Was that a set from another TV show? Was it something that was being used on something else?
Probably.
The sets? Oh yeah, they're probably the false fronts from, you know, all the westerns that NBC was using, or
maybe
you can actually still go visit it.
DeForest Kelly owned all those.
No, there's like a little farm that has all of these in it, and you can go there. It's like an Instagram place now.
What?
You know, The Prisoner? You know the cowboy episode of The Prisoner? The old Patrick McGowan TV show?
Yeah, I didn't watch too many of those.
Oh, did you not see that? They had something similar where there was a cowboy episode kind of out of the blue, and it was because they had the set to a Carry On film called Carry On Cowboy. They had access to it for like a week, and then they wrote an episode around it. So I always wondered with this episodes if they were just like, okay, we don't have money for sets, but we can lay our hands on Gunsmoke's set or something, you know? Yeah. Was that the kind of thing you think was going on by season 3?
Most likely.
Well, even in season 2, you know,
Valley and Gunsmoke, and you know,
I mean, it's all stuff that the studios had, like Bread and Circuses. They had Roman pillars and costumes from movies of gladiators and stuff like that. You know, it was all recycled stuff. They didn't have to create a ton of stuff, particularly as the season went on and the budgets got cut.
Yeah,
far back as Rawhide, even that was probably brought over into Gunsmoke and everything. You know.
Well, it depends on what network owned the series or a production company.
They would auction them off. They would probably cry with each other.
Yeah, but there were so many that were being filmed, you know, at any one time from the 1950s through the 60s. You know, every network probably had 3 or 4, and if they had 3, then they were using those sets for 3 different shows. You know.
Yeah, it started changing by 1970-ish, though. That was when it, you know.
Yeah.
You didn't see anything really.
Yeah.
It was once Gunsmoke died in Big Valley. What else?
Well, the TV networks were getting pushback on violence on TV, and the first TV show that really got the axe as a result of it was the Wild Wild West.
Right.
You know, they went off the air because they couldn't tell those kind of stories anymore.
That's ridiculous. So ridiculous.
Did you hear Tarantino's theory about this? I was listening to a podcast recently where he was talking about it, and he said that a dominant genre is out there for 30 years. He said, so for the first 30 years of Hollywood, it was all gangsters. The next 30 years, it was all cowboys, 1940 to 1970. And he said almost overnight, it became cops. So it was all Starsky and Hutch and all those kind of things. Yeah. And he said Clint Eastwood was the catalyst. Clint Eastwood went from The Man with No Name to Harry Callahan. It was 1970, he said, was the turning point.
Yeah,
and
that makes sense.
There was no more Westerns.
And then you got TJ Hooker. That's where it all died.
Aw.
Yeah, thanks, Bill.
Hooker. Do you know what the TJ stands for?
Adrian Zmed.
Do you know what TJ stands for?
Tiberius James? It wasn't Tiberius James.
I think they only mention it in the first episode because I happened to watch it. I don't know, a couple months ago. I was trying to stream a few of these TJ Hooker episodes, and they're so bad. They really are. It stands for Thomas Jefferson.
No.
Yeah, Thomas Jefferson Hooker.
What was it with Shatner and presidents?
Yeah, I know.
It's kind of
Can we see Peach's face?
Baby Peach. I try not to.
You know, baby Peach. I mean, I'm sorry.
Okay, she's
Little
basically
Peaches.
a clone of him.
What?
I said she's basically a clone of him. So
You don't want to turn her around?
you guys have seen her, bro.
You don't want her. Is there a reason why you're keeping her facing that way?
I just don't want my kid on the internet, you know.
Yeah.
People
Oh.
EFAP it and take pictures, and
I get it.
Creeps out there.
I know I got in
Especially as she
trouble
gets-
with my I thought like all my family knew, but I guess I didn't tell my mother-in-law, and I got in trouble because she posted like a big old Facebook post and I asked her to delete it. And that was like World War III. And I was like,
Oh boy.
Why would it be World War III? It's your child.
because it's her grandchild, and
Doesn't
apparently I did it in a very rude way. So
Jesus.
I had my
you
wife
posted
delete a Facebook
no,
post.
she did like I went down and saw my son and his wife and my granddaughter for the first time, and she posted like all the pictures I had sent to them of my baby, and I was like, please delete this. I don't want my
No,
kid
that's kind of
online.
a personal thing. If you're sending pictures of your baby, it's personal, and you don't need to share it on the internet. That said, she could have just blurred out her face.
Well, my husband didn't listen to me, and he posted a picture, so she was like, oh, well, he did it, so it should be okay. And I'm like, I already yelled at him about it.
Well, she's got
Now you're getting it.
Yeah.
My worst Facebook experience was when our last baby was born. I was in the bath, and my wife said, I want a photo of you and the baby in the bath. And I was like, that's kind of weird. I don't know. And she was like, no, it'll be great, So she handed the baby in, took a picture, and she was so enamored with the baby. The baby's about 6 weeks old or something at this time. She never noticed I'm completely naked and you can see everything.
Oh no.
She's just looking at the baby, and within seconds she uploaded.
Did you post that?
Yeah. And it was up for like an hour, and then I managed to get it and take it down.
It's even more hilarious you telling a story sitting there in your bathrobe.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Because we know there's nothing on underneath that and below the camera.
Take it from here down. Mate.
Exactly.
Oh no.
This only covers my chest. It only covers the chest.
Yeah, there's no way that there's enough material to cover everything else.
Well, there is a thing on Facebook where you can just make it. You can block anybody who's not an immediate friend. So
Right.
it doesn't have to be public. So I mean, there's always that. So you can
Yeah,
tell.
I know, but like when
My
I
wife
explain
posts all our pictures, and
when I explain to like my normal family and friends about the dangers of the internet, they think I'm crazy. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. If you post a picture and you don't have these certain things tagged off, then people can find out exactly where you were when you posted that picture. So if you're sitting on your couch, they can find out where you live. So it's like, and when I explain that, I seem like a crazy conspiracy theorist type of person, but
Yeah.
I just,
they don't understand, especially if they're older.
Like us.
And I still don't. I'm still having trouble understanding most of it. The only thing I don't understand, well, I won't go down this road, but I will just say the only thing that I have trouble with is how the internet has fucked people's brains up so much. I'm just astonished by it every day. Like, what are you freaking saying? Like, you can't believe the things that people type and what's going on in there.
Oh yeah.
You know what I kind of love though? You know some guy who just did something like, benign, like playing a Klingon or something like that. And then you hear his worldview and you're like, oh my God, you're completely mad. I kind of love that when somebody I don't expect is completely mad. It's good.
Yeah. I know. It's so true, man.
Yeah.
I
Or
just-
you find somebody that you thought might have been nuts, and then they say something, you're like, wait, that guy makes sense. You know?
Oh, that happens all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of the time I'll read something.
How can he be in the entertainment business?
Most of the time I read something and I go just like this. I'm like reading and I go, oh, God. And then I click off.
Yeah.
Can't even read.
Ron's not saying that those are my texts to him.
Yeah. Graham,
Oh, God.
Graham's nudies.
My OnlyFans.
Ron, check me out this morning. I woke up with this wood this morning. I'm like, okay, Graham. Yeah, Aaron.
It's cut down my reading. I found though that what I do now is I take a break like every 3 lines, and I'm like, what's going on when I'm reading a book? And I realized it's because I'm used to reading tweets now. That's about as long as I can read without a break. You know?
Dude, that's so true.
That is so true. It is so true. When you actually can find the time to read a book, like for me, if I'm not reading in the morning or I'm not reading like on vacation, forget about it. I can't get a book in. I can't get, a chapter in, because my eyes are so shot from either writing or drawing or all the promotional shit I'm doing on the computer, I just
it's affected our attention span too. You know what I mean? Like read, like you were saying, you read every 3 lines and you have to take a break. I just finished Devil in the White City, and which is a great book, but it took me 6 months. I started it back in November. So 7 months. And I was just reading bits and pieces here and there every chance I could, but I found myself, I'd get through a couple of pages and I'd be like, I'd start to drift off thinking about so many other things.
Exactly.
I do think when you get older, you just have so much going on. It's too easy to get lost.
Especially when you're creative too.
Yeah.
Like I'll read something in a book and I'll say, well, why did he do that? What, it'll immediately take me out of it. I'm like, well, why didn't the character do this?
Exactly. Or like in this book, they talk about Ferris. It's about the World's Fair built in Chicago back in 1893-ish, and then the serial killer named Mudgett. And
they're gonna make a movie about this.
Yeah, and it's a great book, and to read what this guy his alias was Holmes, but his real name was Mudgett, and he was a complete sick fuck, but.
Holmes, the first he's the first serial killer in the United States.
No, he was right after Jack the Ripper.
In the United States.
He was fascinated with Jack the Ripper, but he was completely.
You should have watched Star Trek.
Yeah.
Rejek.
But so geez, I lost my train of thought. Anyway.
You're reading the book.
Oh, Ferris wheel. So he talks about in length about how the Ferris wheel was created because it was in competition with the Eiffel Tower, because in Chicago they wanted to outdo, because the World's Fair was in Paris the year before, and so they wanted to do something that outdid the Eiffel Tower, and so that's how the Ferris wheel was created, and how it was brilliant right out of the starting gate. There were no problems. As soon as they started, it ran like a champ. But anyway, it's something like that, but it gets you thinking about something else, like you were saying, and then next thing you know, you don't even remember what you're reading. And a lot of times I have to go back and reread because I went through a whole page and I realized I haven't retained any of it because your mind is going elsewhere.
Yeah.
Do you not think there's also a thing, if you work in the creative industries, that whenever you're working during the day, you're working in the world of fiction, right? So at nighttime, you need to chill out to fact. It's the only way to bring balance to your brain, So when you go on holiday, you can read fiction because you're not doing fiction, But most people live in the real world and chill out to us at nighttime, don't
right?
They? But we are kind of, every writer I think has this problem. We don't have time to read novels, because it's too much like the day job.
Yeah, I completely agree. For me, vacation is sitting at a beach with a cooler full of beer and a book.
Yeah,
laying in the sun. That, to me, I'm so relaxed, and my mind can just completely let go.
Sound like a card.
I feel.
How dare you insult me?
I've become obsessed with
compliment
because I've worked in fiction for so long. That you're right, Mark. That I feel like I need to. I think that's why I've delved more into maybe a little bit of politics and other things in the real world, because I'm so wrapped up in things that aren't real. You know, it's almost like we are better arbiters of what's real and what isn't because we work in fiction so much.
Yeah, and we have a better grasp on the reality because we're trying to bend that.
Right, exactly.
You know, whether visually or structurally in a story.
And yet there's some people in the business who don't seem like that. They seem like they willfully threw them off the cliff into fantasy land. You know, I seriously think that we never did any studies on the effects of television movies on the human brain over the course of 70 years. But I think you can see some of the effects, like, you know, with, for instance, Star Wars, how it's affected so many people to the point where they just have no idea what's reality and what isn't. Right?
You gotta jab at me. How dare you?
I was waiting for her to pick up her little antenna to come up.
I've just been waiting to interject. I don't know about you guys. I read a book every night. Last night we read The Cat in the Hat. The night before that,
nice.
Redfish, Bluefish.
That's the greatest literature there is.
There it is.
Well, it is. It's banned now, so
That's
gotta get these
ridiculous.
tales into her.
Unbelievable.
I remember noticing that I was recording news programs years ago, like recording news programs to watch later. And I realized it's because if you eat sugar all day, you need protein at nighttime, don't you? And I think that's what it is for us. If you're sitting doing Batman or Spider-Man or something like that, you chill out to fact. You know, all I read is biographies. You know?
Yeah, biographies. I like historical things. I read
watch the History Channel all the time.
That's also every guy who hits 40, isn't it? Once you're 40, it's compulsory. You know, I'm going to a lecture on Monday night about the Battle of Medway. You know, the naval battle of Medway. You know, and I sent a message out to a bunch of my pals who are the same age as me, and I said, "Listen, do you want to come and see a 3-hour lecture about the Battle of Medway in a museum?" And everybody get back in 5 minutes and said, "I'll be there at 5 too. I'll be there." You know,
nice.
Have you ever been to?
The thing is, it's weird. Oh, go ahead. Honey.
That's a turning point of World War II.
Have you ever been to the ship? They have it in San Diego.
No.
Yeah.
The Midway?
Yeah, I've been on it.
Well, it's interesting.
Well, that was named afterwards because it was the Battle of Midway.
They have like a whole like documentary thing on it, and you can go and watch the video before you go and like tour the ship and all the planes. It's really cool. You should go.
The interesting thing is when you get wrapped up in some of that history, you realize how horrifying it is. The reality of well, they say the truth is stranger than fiction. I would also say it's scarier than fiction. I mean, when you look at Russia and the Romanovs, what happened to that family, how they were brought into that room and then all massacred, and then, you know, and the kids, the daughters,
If you watch The Crown, they actually have that scene in it.
Oh, it's off. I didn't watch it, but I know I know that history. I've read all about that history, and it's so sad and intensely maddening that we're capable of such things, you know. So that's what gets me back into the fiction again. So it's a nice back and forth.
But because we're true monsters, because every writer or artist is a monster, I do always see some historical atrocity and think, hey, that'd be pretty cool. I might use that in something. It's like,
yeah. We definitely have.
My Ghost of Matacumba Key book was based on I read this book called Last Train to Paradise, and it was about Flagler building the railway that connected Florida to the Florida Keys, and what the engineering and stuff that had to go on to create that and make that happen. It's between that and Carrier's creation of the air conditioners what made Florida not just a seasonal destination, but a place where people could live. But one of the things that was part of that history was the biggest hurricane to ever strike the U.S. mainland in 1935, the Labor Day hurricane, which just wiped out all that stuff. And I said to myself, you know, this would be a great ghost story. And so I wrote my whole book, Ghost of Matacumba Key, based on that.
That's great.
Yeah, I love that stuff.
That's great. What does any of this have to do with Spectre of the Gun?
Well, ghosts and specters are the same, so we can dovetail now over.
You know what's blown my mind? I'd never actually thought about the final frontier in Western terms. I know it's so obvious, and so Ron pointed it out, you know, but like, I just accepted this was Star Trek. I never really thought it through in that level, but that sort of new frontier thing of Star Trek, I hadn't really thought much about until you brought it up.
Well, Roddenberry, when pitching it to the networks, called it Wagon Train to the Stars.
Yeah.
You know, because Westerns were so popular, it was a way to get these simple-minded executives to understand
transition. You know, we became fascinated with that. You know, once we tamed the West, you know, it became the space race, and you're right. It was just, you know, the new frontier. That's why I liked the episode, was because of that.
Used to be a thing as well, though, didn't it? You know, from Submariner and Aquaman was outselling Superman, I think, at one point, wasn't it? You know, shortly after World War II. And
was that because of Jason Momoa?
You know, the 1950s Aquaman comic, I think, was bigger than Superman for a while, because Under the Sea was more exciting than space, somewhere between westerns and sci-fi, wasn't it? And then the space race just killed Under the Sea.
Interesting. I've never seen those numbers. I don't know. I'd be surprised. I mean, but you know, in the 1950s, that was a crazy time in comics, in sales of comics. So much stuff, you know, was, you know, you had everybody trying to do westerns because that was hot during the Korean War. Everybody had a Korean War comic. You had Captain Marvel fighting the Reds. You know, it was. Then you had Wortham shutting down EC, and then DC suing Fawcett. You know, that was a crazy time.
All in one decade as well. I mean, that must have been able to work in it at that point. When things were that nuts.
So many guys left the business, went into advertising, and like didn't come back until things started to pick up in the 60s, or they didn't come back at all. They just stayed where there was more money. You know,
I can't even imagine having worked back then in this industry. You know, I mean, it's changed so much even since I came in 89. But when you think about what Buscema or Kirby or Alec Raymond and any of those, like going way back, and how it seems so much darker and harder to survive with it. I mean, you know, they really existed on their love for doing it, you know, as opposed to, you know, when Image comes along, a lot of it became about the money and things like that. But I mean, they did.
You can't throw Alex Raymond into that because he was a strip guy, and those guys made millions. You know, when you had a hot strip,
Raymond made millions.
Oh, those guys, you know, were making money hand over
fist.
Like,
the comic strips for the newspapers did, but I didn't.
That's what Alex Raymond did. He did Flash Gordon.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he made
for a strip though. I don't remember that.
For the newspaper strip. Yeah.
Well, like Hal Foster did it every Sunday. You know.
Yep.
And, you know.
Foster, Kniff.
Right. I'm thinking more like
Crane.
That's what Edgar Rice Burroughs actually made his real cash. It was those syndicated Tarzan strips. You know?
Yeah. It's the first adventure strip, I think.
You know, they were, you know, that's why Buscema had to do 5 pages a day just to
right. And they all want they felt they were slumming, you know, they were just making money, but they all wanted to get into the strips. That was the goal, was to become a strip.
Yeah, but that was again like one of those things that, you know, the ability to get into those strips was so hard because you know, you only had so many to get into. Yeah, they only approved so many strips every week, and even then it was like a lottery, you know, because look at Kirby. He and Wally Wood did what was the name of that strip? They did that space strip. Oh shoot, I'm drawing a blank. Somebody in the chat, you know what I'm talking about. I got an original on the wall here, actually. It didn't go anywhere, but it was absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, Wally Wood was amazing. Yeah, Ink and Kirby was something else. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, let me take care of a couple of super chats here. We got Russell Hall for $2. Aren't comics basically written in Twitter format? Well, not really. It's kind of a shorthand, but I wouldn't say Twitter format.
That's kind of interesting, though, because have you ever heard Denny O'Neil give this really good advice to young writers in the 70s, you know, and he said, comic book dialogue should be like newspaper headlines, but written by poets. And it's such a great way of doing it, isn't it? Just to get it as concise as you can. It's almost like a tweet, isn't it? Yeah. Well, then I stand corrected. That is good advice. Adds 80 for $10
Australian, perhaps. Sorry about being late. Anna posted a video just before you went live, and I was watching that. Where's Aaron? Is he at a come on, Ron rally or something?
Come on, Ron.
Come on, Ron.
Ron.
Aaron is en route to a convention. So, what is this, Anna? What'd you put in the private chat?
Oh, it was somebody made an illustration of that guy's house, the H.H. Holmes guy.
Oh, the building he built? Because he built
Yeah.
a building during the fair, and that's where he committed a lot of his murders.
Oh, okay.
He built an apartment building, and people would come and stay there. And he had like these.
And that's how he
gas
killed
lamps.
them.
He was gassing people to death.
He designed a murder apartment. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the
He
whole
did that.
building, each room had like a trap door that's how he was able to like get all the women, because he advertised it that it was like a safe space to stay for single women that are coming.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd be very wary if some guy puts up a thing saying this is safe for women to stay in. You know, like instant.
Well, he owned a pharmacy, and he also was extremely good looking and charming. And so a lot of the women, because he owned the pharmacy, you know, they were attracted to him because he was, you know, honed in. And he would offer them things. And he was always changing his name. And he had all these little insurance scams going on, and so he's scamming equipment from companies and medicines and things like that.
Yeah.
And it finally caught up to him. That's, you know, but then the horrible, well, I won't give it away in case you guys ever watch the movie or read the book, but he did one really seriously horrible thing that you can't believe.
Sky Masters. Thank you, guys. That was the Kirby book. Kirby.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Sky Masters.
Dave Gibbons owns a bunch of those original pages, actually.
Does he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a daily hanging on my wall from that strip. Beautiful.
This murder house thing intrigues me. You know, that we just had our place done up about 2 years ago, and I'm starting to think I should maybe have seen this first before.
Well, that cutaway is fascinating to see.
It's like a Dick Sprang thing, isn't it?
Yeah, right. The bad cave, you know. That's funny. Oh man. All right, let's see, what do we got here? 47 minutes. Let's give this episode our grades, and then Mark has a live campaign that we want to talk about a little bit. So let's
what do you say? What you say, Mark?
Me and Johnny Romita have worked together twice. We did Kick-Ass, which we loved. We had a great time on it. We did Wolverine, which we loved doing as well. And I just like working with Italians, even if it's Sicilians, you know, like I love Johnny. 25 years we've been friends, and we have a great time working together.
Yeah.
And I had a 12-week window, and I said to Johnny, do you want to do something? He was like 100%. So the Kickstarter thing is so exciting. Like, you know, I haven't done it before. This is the first time I've given it a try. And it just feels like a growth thing, doesn't it? You know, when everything else feels like it's kind of shrinking, Kickstarter just feels fun. So Johnny and I came up with this thing. It's called Psychic Sam. And it genuinely comes from Marvel messing up the Punisher. Like, you know, the way they kind of changed the Punisher and made it kind of benign and a little dull and everything, you know? We thought, wouldn't it be cool to have a badass Punisher type character, like a 90s kind of thing, you know, with a big gun? And we came up with the concept. The idea is really simple. It's a guy who's a vigilante who finds out about murders 24 hours before they happen. So he's basically got a choice of killing the bad guy or letting an innocent person get murdered. And that's where it all begins. Just a nice blue-collar truck driver guy who has to kill people, even though he doesn't want to, because it's the only way.
Kind of like Unbreakable in a way.
Actually, almost exactly like that. No, you mentioned it.
Whoops.
But what he does is he's basically Frank Castle meets Minority Report. Is our thing, you know, where he's just got a gun, he's out there, he's got to blow these guys away, and the police are all after him. And he's like, the voices in my head told me that these guys were going to kill people. So it's kind of, it goes to weird places. That's the first 10 pages, and it just goes nuts from that point on. Johnny drawn a Punisher type guy, though, is really what this is all about. Klaus Janson, who is the world's greatest inker, you know, like Klaus and Johnny together are such a great team. So it's going to be 3 volumes. First volume is our first campaign. It's got about 19 days to go, I think.
It's got exactly 19 days to go.
Yeah. So it seems. Oh, there we go. Yeah, there it is. And you know, I mean, you can see the slight Punisher ripoff of it. Even a skull in the background there. You know?
Slight,
Oh yeah,
just a slight ripoff.
he's got the Frank Castle Ramita Jr. busted nose.
I mean, come on.
Hey, let's
Well,
play the
so
video.
You guys will appreciate, and I think Ron, you'll like this, I'm sure. Do you remember Marvel used to do these Marvel magazines back in the 70s, where it was like thick black and white magazines with a beautiful painted cover?
Yeah.
And they were on sale on newsstands. Now in Scotland, that's how I saw most of my comics, because American comics were repackaged like that in black and white and a big painted cover. So the first thing I did as one of the tiers on this is I says to Johnny, look, we need to do it in black and white and get Dave Dorman, Joe Jusko, and these guys doing painted covers, you know?
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Oh, it's awesome. Honestly, it's great. If people go to my socials, they'll see it up there. But Dave Dorman's cover for the first one, it feels like something I'd seen at a train station or a 7-Eleven when I was 8 years old. You know, it's great. I'll absolutely love it. And even if this is just for me, I don't care. I wanted this printed just so I could own it and have it in the house.
Well, we'll go through the campaign and show the rewards, but first let's do the video so people can get an idea of what the series is about.
My name is Sam Nicoletti, and I see murders before they happen. A little voice tells me the killer's name and address. And if I stop them, I save a life. If I ignore them, an innocent human dies. What would you do in my situation?
It looks like it's ready.
Psychic Sam is a classic boys comic. It's about a guy with a big gun who goes out and solves problems. And he hears voices in his head tell him to kill bad guys. The only trouble is the bad guys haven't done anything yet. But every time he ignores it, someone innocent dies. And it's only a matter of time before the bodies start piling up.
I'm working with a guy named Mark Millar. Mark and I started on Wolverine together, and we got to create Kick-Ass. And we had a brilliant time. It changed our lives. So now we come up with a third collaboration, and it's called Psychic Sam. And I have the legend Klaus Janson working with me, and then the brilliant Bill Crabtree doing the color art. And we are having an all-out blast with this.
The big news is we're also doing a movie of Psychic Sam. There's a guy called Ivan Atkinson who's brilliant. He's Guy Ritchie's producer, and he's produced some of my favourite films from Guy. Wrath of Man, The Gentleman, all these amazing films Guy's been doing over the last few years.
Ivan Atkinson, yeah. I'm excited to be teaming up with Mark Millar and his exciting new project, Psychic Sam. Mark and I have been talking about working together for a number of years, and I found the project that I think brings fascinating characters and action together, reminded me of the films I grew up loving.
This is completely outside of Miller World and Netflix and all the stuff I've been doing for the last 20 years, really. None of those books will be affected, and all our new titles will still be out there every month. I just carved out a wee holiday for myself and thought I'd be doing something for maybe Marvel or DC again. Then I thought, wouldn't it be great to do some creator ones with Johnny Romita Jr.?
There's so many great tiers to this, so many great levels to this. We're going to do a black and white version with a painted cover.
Done in the style of a 1970s Marvel magazine, beautifully packaged in that big magazine size format. There's hardcovers, there's t-shirts, there's trading cards, there's stickers.
Spectacular stuff. You can also get written and drawn into the issues, which would be a lot of fun. I have to do justice to all of you.
We're assembling a fantastic team of filmmakers on this production, and we will have some more information for you guys soon.
We just are having so much fun with the character. It's probably as good as it gets, but the fact that it's the third time with Mark, it's a charm.
I think there's something special brewing here, so don't miss it.
Oh, thanks very much.
Oh, that's good. That's good. We've raised $77,000 so far. 19 days left. So if you guys haven't backed this project yet, please give it a look. We'll go over through some of the tiers here, Mark. If there's anything you want me to stop on to talk about.
I mean, that artwork is just nuts, isn't it? You know, I mean, the fact that Johnny's been drawing comics since I was like 7, and he's still brilliant. And Klaus is a couple of years older than Johnny, you know, but like, you know that feeling when your email in the morning when you switch it on and these pages are coming in and you're seeing this like top quality art coming through. It's just it's brilliant. It's the best feeling in the world.
The magazine one, Psycho with Psycho Sam there. There was a magazine in the 70s called Psycho, I think. It was a horror magazine, and it looked just like this. I mean, it really captured that feel. That's really cool.
Yeah, it reminds me of the old Warren publications too.
Yeah,
Vampirella, Creepy and Eerie, and all those.
Yeah. The Skywald also did some of that stuff. I think that was a subsidiary of Atlas Comics, if I'm not mistaken.
Actually, Bill Crabtree mentioned this to me. Mentioned he was working on this with you guys.
Said
he's having a blast with it. Yeah, he's really, really great.
Yeah.
Normally with colorists, I work very closely with them.
Mm-hmm.
With Bill, like he did some pages when we first started on Berserker, and I went over some of the pages with him one time, and I explained him all the things I was thinking and what I thought could be better or different. And that's all it took. From that point on, every freaking page was brilliant.
Yeah.
Like he took everything I said. No, I'm not taking credit for it. He's brilliant anyway. But he, from that point on, everything I saw was like, oh my God, that's amazing. He really tapped into the art itself, and he tailors himself to the black and white really, really well.
Yeah. That's
and
great.
And another thing, when you mentioned Wrath of Man, that promotional poster they ripped off of Men of Wrath that I did with Jason Aaron.
No, you're kidding?
And I swear to God, because I superimposed it over my first cover, and even the shadowing matches first what they did with Jason Statham. It's the same pose, everything.
That's
wow.
crazy.
So it was right after the Harvey Weinstein stuff, because we were picked up by Paramount. First it was USA Network, and they dumped it because of the Harvey Weinstein thing, because it was all that the Me Too movement, and they didn't want to have anything with men in the title.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, a few years later, they did that movie, and it was by the same company, and and some of it has similarities in Men of Wrath. And then I superimposed it. It's the exact same, it looks exactly like what I drew. It's crazy.
That's nuts. Because I think Wrath of Man might have been based on a novel, so maybe it came from the novel. I don't know,
Yeah.
Do you know when the novel came out?
No idea.
Yeah. That's nuts. I hadn't heard that. I would bring it up, except the producer is the most dangerous looking guy I've ever met in my life. Like, I love him. He's become a really good friend, but he's a 7 foot tall South African cage fighter.
Oh my God.
Geez. And he's got hands like a Jack Kirby monster. He's so strong, and he's a jiu-jitsu expert as well. So I had lunch with him on Monday. But
I'll tell him I'll roll with him. I used to own a jiu-jitsu school myself.
Oh, no way.
Yeah,
You still do it? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let me do a little business here. Russell Hall for $5 says, speaking of secret rooms behind walls, Anna, did you spot any signs of Kelsey while you were working on your roof? Okay.
No, Kelsey is lost in the swamp, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I think you may be right. Let's see. Paul Taylor for $10 says, hail panel and chat. Why doesn't Psychic Sam just work for the police, or are they corrupt? Or am I ruining your concept? Sorry.
No, that is a scene, because early on he's like, I need to tell the cops about this. So he phones them up and says, listen, there's going to be a murder tomorrow, and gives all the details. And then the police are like, you're out of your mind. And then next day there is a murder, and the police are chasing him. Because
that makes sense.
So it's a disaster for him.
Well, if he worked for the cops, then it would just be Minority Report.
That's true. I mean, it's Punisher meets Minority Report. That is my big selling point with it, But where it goes to some crazy places. So I hope people dig it. But we're loving it. We're having a great time on it.
And that'll translate, and people will get
First
that.
thing that popped into my head. Did you see the movie Nobody? Excuse me.
Hold on. We got one more here. Ads 80 for $5 says, I love how independent comic book artists found a way to still create outside of the restrictive woke agenda. Yep, absolutely. Okay, go ahead, Aaron. Go ahead, Ron.
Ron, come on, Ron. I was wondering if you guys saw the movie Nobody, starring Bob Odenkirk.
I haven't watched it, but that's
No.
it looked
Better Call Saul.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have a hard time picturing him as an action hero, but is it good?
Let me tell you, he completely defied your expectations. Like, because you see him as this goofy, sort of lovable loser in Better Call Saul, but he's not that in this. He plays a really convincing tough dude.
Really?
Yeah, he's really, it's a good movie.
Is it on Netflix?
Him doing, I could
Yeah,
see him doing
it says
that.
on Netflix.
Okay.
So is it good?
Oh, it's excellent. Yeah, it's really
Okay.
good in it.
I think it's David Leitch produced it. I think, didn't he? You know, who's one of the great action directors. You know, I think he might have been the producer on it.
Not sure who produced it. Let me look it up.
I saw we got 350 people watching. Hit that like button.
You're right. David Leitch is the producer. Yep.
I saw the trailer for the sequel and it looks great. I haven't seen the first one though. I'm going to check it out now.
Yeah, it's really good. Anyway, so what's your ratings?
Yeah, we got to rate back to since this is a Star Trek show. Well, we do have to rate this episode. So let's let our guest Mark give us his 1 to 10 is our ratio.
I would say, I think possibly a 7 because I think the design of the alien is excellent.
Yeah,
and you know I'm going to go an 8 because I actually think season 3 I think is a very underrated season. You know, everybody laughs at it. I think it's still brilliant. I loved it as a kid. And I love special episodes. You know, when something's like a cowboy episode or a back in the 1940s episode or whatever, you know, those things always just feel a little bit special to me. Mm-hmm. So, but the design of that alien alone is worth 5 points, I think. You know.
Solid. Okay, Bizarro.
You have to say my name backwards. Orazdib. Yeah, I'm going to give it a because I love Westerns, so I'm particularly favorable to this, but everything about it I liked. I'll give it a 9. I give it a 9. I like the Spectre of those, you know, because that's what the Old West is these ghosts of the past, and it's kind of what Unforgiven talks about, and how, you know, how it deconstructs the myth and the romanticism of the Old West. And this kind of is like that, you know, these characters are these ghosts, but they're so mythic, and it handles it so well, you know, and to see that in this context and space and everything, and I just thought it was really enjoyable to watch.
If you guys like Westerns, have you guys ever seen the Bud Bedecker, Randolph Scott Westerns?
No.
Like Ride Lonesome?
No.
Oh, you got to see these. I think they did 5 or 6 together, but Ride Lonesome is my favorite. It's a revenge tale that you don't realize is a revenge tale until you get about halfway through the movie. And it's the baddest ass revenge tale you're ever going to see. It's so good. It is so good.
Nice.
Randolph Scott is who Alex used as his model for Superman, I think, wasn't it? Randolph Scott.
Yeah, what's that movie that Joan Crawford was in, that Western? Oh my God. Can't think of the name of it. Off the top of my head, I can't think of it. But anyway. So your turn, Anna Banana.
Probably going to go with the 7.
It's always harsh.
That was me being nice. I think I went through a phase where I was so like over Westerns. And so as a kid, I was like, oh, this one again.
Did you ever like them?
Yeah, I did. But then it just was like too much for a while. Because, you know, you get to a certain point in Little House on the Prairie where it's like, oh my God, who's dying now? What tragic thing happened now? Who caught the bonnet?
Little House on the Prairie.
Do you think Westerns is the saddest genre? It has probably more tragedies in it than any other genre, doesn't it? Because people dying of the flu and stuff like that. It's always sad.
Yeah.
Everything.
Well, one of the tenets of the Western is that all conflict has to be resolved with violence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can only think of one Western where that wasn't the case, and it was Warlock with Henry Fonda. But almost every other Western that's part of its makeup is that the conflict has to be resolved with violence.
But that's
more violent, the better the Western.
Well, I don't know if this bothers you guys.
Look at Mark's new project here. It's like, you know, I mean, it's all the conflicts resolved with violence.
It's satisfying though, you know, like
it should be.
You know, the Western that I think is the most underrated, and nobody talks about this Western, The Quick and the Dead, Sam Raimi's movie, The Quick and the Dead. Have you guys seen that?
Gene Hackman.
Yeah. Greatest resolution with violence I've ever seen at the end of a film. It's fantastic. It's like it becomes the Wild Bunch for the last 5 minutes. It's great.
Yeah, the Wild Bunch. I love that movie.
So good.
Yeah, that's a great one. Have you ever seen The Wild Bunch, Anna?
Who's in it?
Let's see. Ben Johnson, William Holden, Ernest Borgnine, Robert Ryan.
Let me see. I don't know if I have.
Let's go.
Wasn't Carol O'Connor in one of those?
He wasn't in The Wild Bunch.
No, he was in one of those movies. Was it Kelly's?
Did they do a remake?
Oh, Kelly's Heroes. He's in. He plays the
Yeah,
general.
he's in Kelly's Heroes. That's
Yeah. I like how he hears them on the radio and they're talking about you got to blow up that bridge, and he thinks that these guys are like, oh my, look at these, go, go, go. This is what I want. I want the army to go, go, go. And they're going in here to rob a bank.
Well, I don't know if you guys ever got bothered by this, but like as a whammon, once I got to a certain age, and I'm like, this would be hell to clean. Like all the dust, all the dust, all the beer spilled everywhere, all the shells from the bullets. Like it just drove me crazy after.
I could see you telling them to put the pans outside and let the sand blast them clean.
That'd be a great full episode of a Western TV show, wouldn't it? Just cleaning up after a gunfight. You never see that.
Yeah, the cleanup at the OK Corral.
The cleanup.
There we go.
Did you guys see Buster Scruggs?
The what's that?
Did you see Buster Scruggs?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're missing a good one, Mark. Watch Buster Scruggs.
Is that a TV show?
No, it's a movie.
Yeah.
It's a
Netflix
kind of a anthology, vignettes of different stories in it that all tie up at the end. But it's really, really good.
Oh, cool. I'll check that out.
Because it came out right at the time where I had lost hope that there was ever going to be another good movie I could watch. And that one came out. I was like, oh, yes. It was so good.
Our favorite thing we've just finished is Mobland. Have you guys been watching Mobland?
I haven't. Is that good?
I've heard about it, but I don't get the streaming channel.
It's Paramount. It's on Paramount, this one. Guy Ritchie with the guy who's doing Psychic Sam. They did this together.
Is that with, what's his name? The actor?
Pierce Brosnan?
Is it Pierce?
And Tom Hardy.
Yeah, right.
I think it's the best show I've seen in the last 5 years.
I started watching that, actually, I think.
Really good. Now stick with it. It's really great. And I'd say it's the best show I've seen since
Is that the one where the guy, they kill his brother, somebody, and then, gosh, I'm trying to remember. What's the premise of it? Like
this one, because I wondered if that's maybe The Gentleman.
I think that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's got a similar vibe, and it's got
yeah. That's it.
Yeah. But this one's about Irish gangsters in London, like gypsy Irish gangsters in London, and Tom Hardy's their kind of fixer.
Okay, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
They're both Guy Ritchie, gentlemen.
Yeah, it's unbelievably violent. I can't believe it's a TV show. You guys will love it. It's great.
All right, so I got to give my grade, and I'm with Ron. And would you give it, Mark?
I would give it an 8, a solid 8.
You gave it an 8. Okay, I'm going with a solid 9 because I just love everything about this episode. I don't see any kind of even the staging in it. Like there's some of those angles, like a down shot where the guy's holster's in the front and it's almost silhouetted, and his arm is down by the side, and it forces a frame around Kirk in the distance, who's completely lit.
I know.
There was some really, really cool shots that the cameraman did that you don't see in Star Trek a lot.
Well, they were influenced by the Westerns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I know what shot you're talking about.
Yeah,
even the murkiness of the Melkotians and the design of the
it's like a booger with the glowing eyes.
Separates up. Thanks for just ruining it for me.
You'll never see him the same again. All that snot hanging down the booger.
It's like an EC Comics character, though, isn't it? I think it's got a really creepy 50s EC vibe to it.
Yeah, and the voice is great too.
The rest of the universe somehow, like it's like this episode seemed like that happened to them in some weird, dark, murky corner of the universe that nobody's ever experienced before.
Yeah,
something about that episode.
That's a good point, because other civilizations they come across in Star Trek feel as if they've been discovered already. You know, they feel very regimented and all this. This feels Lovecraftian, doesn't it? I mean, it's
Yeah.
odd, this thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it
feels
still
far away.
harkens back to Kuhn's other stuff, like Arena with the Metrons. You know, these beings that, you know, they prove themselves. The Earthlings prove themselves to be non-violent unless pushed, and so then they're welcomed in. Same thing here is that, you know, the Melkotians didn't trust us and they were going to kill us. And then you realize that he doesn't kill the guy when he could, and so there's hope for them. And then they blow up the buoy and they say, you know, come, you'll be welcome.
Who wrote the Lincoln episode?
Well, we haven't gotten to that one yet.
wait.
Oh, wait, you know what? I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it is Lee Cronin, i.e., Gene Kuhn. It's either him or it was Roddenberry.
Because it's
Could be
very,
Roddenberry.
you know, that's another similar one. Like, well, a similar theme, like the Triskelion one. You know, they're always, you know, they get put on the planet to fight these.
Let me see if I got it here.
Can I say something in defense of Scotty? You know
Who
that
was crashing Scotty?
well, people always say what a terrible accent he's got, right? And when I was a kid, I sort of believed this, right? And then I'm watching it now, and I'm like, he sounds exactly like a guy from Scotland, but a part of Scotland nobody goes to. It's a little part in the northeast called Linlithgow, and that's where Scotty's supposed to come from. You know?
Okay.
So he has a weird, but Scotland's got 7 accents, and he's just one of the weirder accents. You know,
I would have never thought he was that it wasn't authentic. It always came across as authentic to me listening to it.
but growing up, I'd always hear in the UK people say, "Oh, his accent's terrible. He sounds
Really,
like
that's
you know,
interesting.
But I'm like, I'm in. I'm loving him. You know, I think he just feels like a guy I'd hang out with. I like.
It's like in Inglorious Bastards with
The fingers.
the
Yes.
tranquilizer. And he comes out. He's like, "Where are you from?" Because his accent's a little off.
What about Sean Connery? Is that a legit accent?
Oh yeah, I mean, and everybody always says this. My uncle weirdly was at school with Sean Connery. He was called Tommy Connery, I think, back then. Though. So he wasn't in his class, but he was in his year at school.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So he's the real deal. He's a proper Scottish guy. Yeah.
Oh, he had the tattoo of Scotland on his arm, and they had to put makeup all over it in the James Bond years, you know, to cover it. You know,
I mean, he was a legend in Scotland, though. I mean, like, we've never had anybody like Sean Connery again. He was like Neil Armstrong. He was the first man in the moon, the first Scottish superstar, you know, and we'll never have another one. I'm as good as it gets after that.
Well, that's it then. That's all we got from Scotland. We got Sean Connery and Mark Millar.
And
So it is Mark
honorary.
Millar. It's not Mark Millar.
Well, do you know, I've always said Mark Millar, but like,
It's not Mark Millar, is it?
It sounds great though. The Americans say it, and it sounds like Ray Milland. It makes me sound so much more sophisticated. I like it.
I'm wondering if I can mimic your accent.
See, that sounds like James Doohan. That's pretty good.
So wait a minute. Are you telling us that Ray Milland is actually Ray Milland?
In the UK, he'd be Ray Milland. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah, Americans give it this flourish, and it sounds.
I was gonna say it sounds so much blander.
Yeah, Ray Milland. That's not a.
That's
movie
why I like
star.
Mark Millar. I always thought it sounded a little more.
Ray Milland. He was Welsh, I think. Ray Milland.
If I said Mark Millar in Scotland, I'd be stabbed to death. Though, you know, I have to say Mark Millar. You know, so.
His Tom Jones accent. What's that?
He's
That's
Welsh.
He's Welsh.
Welsh. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
That dude can sing his ass.
I remember I
off.
pissed someone off because I kept calling them English because they're from England, and I didn't, you know, like, you can't call a Welsh person English, and I'm like, I don't think there's a big difference, right?
Well, they do hate each other. That's the only thing, you know.
Yeah,
so.
I
We
learned
all
that
hate England.
very quickly.
Is it like that in the States? You know, like, see states that touch each other, do those guys kind of hate the guys on the other side of the
Oh
border?
yeah. Now,
Yeah, does that
it
happen?
didn't used to be. It is now. Like,
Yeah.
hell yeah.
Yeah.
Because Scotland, England, the closer you are, like, then the more you fight, you know. So whoever is across the border, they're the enemy kind of thing. Is that historically what the 50 states were like as well?
No.
No.
Well, we had the
rivalries and things.
Civil War. We had that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's
I mean,
that.
our borders were always so
pretty
open. You know, you could, cross over and buy stuff throughout the states, and sometimes there's rivalries.
Well, it's mostly about the politics of each state.
Yeah.
But people in New York didn't make fun of people in Florida or whatever. You know,
People in New York make fun of
they do.
everybody.
Right.
Absolutely. People in New York, they hate. I heard a story of a guy who was driving his truck through New York, and this woman was in her Mercedes or something, and then he cut her off accidentally, and she yelled at him, saying, "Take your ho-dunk, podunk, or whatever back down south where you belong,"
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it definitely exists.
Yeah.
Hey, dude.
I grew up in my teenage years in Florida, but I was originally from Long Island in New York, and we were going back to Florida to visit family, and I had New York plates on, right? So I'm going back into my hometown in Florida, and there's this bunch of guys in front of me in this car, and we're stuck at a stoplight, and the guy turns around and he starts yelling the F-bombs at me. I was like, "Why don't you go back to fucking New York?" And I'm like, "Listen, you little squirt, I was down here surfing before you were even born." Little fuck.
Mark, this is my son, Tristan.
Hey there, how you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good to see you.
He's going to SCAD in a couple months down in Georgia for filmmaking.
Oh,
which my daughter's just back. She was my oldest kid. She was her boyfriend. Well, Georgia's such a great scene now. Her boyfriend has directed his first movie with Sam Raimi.
Oh, nice.
And he's a Scottish guy, never been to America before, and Sam Raimi loved the script he did and gave him a chance to direct the movie. What they said, they lived out there for 10 weeks, and they said it's the coolest scene. It's great. The filmmaking scenes are so exciting. Because of the tax breaks and everything.
Are you going to Atlanta campus or Savannah?
Savannah.
Ah, okay.
You're going to have a great time.
My daughter went there.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it's going to be a culture shock for him because up where he is now, there's nothing going on here.
Yeah. Well, Savannah's not that hot a campus. It's a beautiful area and all that, but it's not like the Atlanta where they're filming all that stuff.
Well, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot there.
No, but it's the program. But maybe the film program is stronger in the Savannah campus is the point.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, we went down there, we toured the campus, and the filmmaking stuff was pretty remarkable. I mean, some of the sets and things they were showing us.
Yeah. You might end up in Atlanta, though, after you graduate, through this college, because like my son-in-law works, he's a locations director, and he goes around and he finds all these locations in Atlanta to shoot all these Marvel movies and stuff. So there's a lot happening in Atlanta.
Who is that does that you know?
My son-in-law.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Awesome.
Nice.
Well, you have to hook him up with Tristan.
Tristan, what age are you? How old are you?
I'm 18.
So in America, you can't drink until you're 21?
No.
So you're going to be totally sober.
He's not going to drink even when he's 21. He ain't
He's not even had a drink yet.
Oh.
He's just like his father was.
Perfect role model.
Hey, Tristan, stay away from that Robbie the robot. He made that bourbon tonight.
He made me a drink. Came right out of his chest.
Oh my gosh.
Because he does that in the movie, I think, right?
He does. He makes gallons of it for Earl Holliman.
Well, I better hit the sack. I'm up in about
we're going to
4.5 hours.
We're going to sign off here, guys. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank our special guest, Mark Millar. And if you haven't backed his project, it is the link is in the description of the show. So go hit that and back him and JR are both great guys and great talents. So we'll see you guys next week for Elan of Troyes. So, and hopefully Aaron will be back then. Until then, my friends,
Aaron.
Have a great evening. Yeah, Aaron. And now you get to watch my trailer. See you guys.